Yellow. With the Jello. With the Jello pudding pops and the Jello and the Jello jigglers.
Can everybody hear us okay? Or me okay? Okay, I'm blocked by this.
Do you hear what I hear? It said bad night in Chester, PA. I'm thinking like, oh yeah, that's because most MLS teams are like 30 miles away from their actual city.
All right. Check. 1, 2. Just gonna do a quick mic check real quick.
Okay. It's right there.
Josh, go.
I checked. It's right there.
You check the mic.
It's right in front of me.
Yes.
Josh shows up 5 minutes before, and he's got jokes. Unprofessional.
I mean, endless supply.
Sam, one more time.
Hello. Check. What am I doing? Checking the mic.
Yeah.
Microphone check. 1 2 1 2.
I like check. What am I doing? Check. What am I doing?
I'm just using this microphone to validate myself, to make sure that I can stay in my safe space, and I don't get triggered.
Oh God.
And I don't quit podcasting because my podcast sucks.
Well, debatable. A lot of people think that we suck. Not me.
All right.
I'm having a rough day. Twitter, help me out, please.
Are you having a rough day?
No, I'm not.
Oh. Josh, how are you?
Oh God. Pretty good.
All right.
It's good to be here with y'all.
We have literally not planned this show out very well. We have a very, very, very vague outline as to what we want to talk about. So here we go.
Sports.
Joseph Martinez is good at soccer.
What's up, Atlanta? This is the Mouths of South podcast brought to you by Dirty South Soccer and the palatial 680 The Fan Studios. I am Eric Quintana. Next to me, Josh Bakriansky. And across from me, Mr. Sam Franco, the trio, back again, ready to give you the podcast of your lives. Am I selling this too much?
I don't know. I mean, we haven't been the three of us together in a long time. I mean, in terms of doing the show, I know I did radio last week, but had some car trouble. Couldn't make this show.
Yeah, you had a flat tire.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Not great.
No.
Josh, how are you? How was Labor Day weekend?
Labor Day weekend was good.
Arsenal won, didn't they?
Arsenal drew.
Oh, it's a draw.
In a horrifyingly stressful match, although fun for the neutral, I'm sure. But no, it was good, man. It's funny how like you get an extra week, like one extra day, and you come back Tuesday and you're like, what is this responsibility in work? You know, like one extra day, and my body thinks this is the new normal.
Can I tell you, I went to Uruguay about 3 days in. I completely forgot I had a job. Completely forgot I had responsibilities.
Really?
And then I came back, and 2 weeks didn't seem long enough.
Responsibilities are the worst.
And I'm not a fan of my job, so that just makes it even worse. So if anyone's got a job out there for me, hit me up.
I like how you just dropped that on here.
You got to really not like your job
to like publicly say
to do something like that. Yeah. So if anyone out there wants to help me out, please do.
Well, it's okay. I had started to really hate my old job before getting my new job, so it's all good, man. You know, sometimes you're in a rut career-wise, and hopefully you find something similar to what I found, because now I get to just push T-shirts like this awesome Ronald Acuna one right here that you can get on BreakingT.com. But yeah, it's great stuff.
Well, Atlanta United coming off the weekend, 3-1 losers to the Philadelphia Union in Chester, PA. And, I mean, do we want to dive right into it?
Yeah.
Do we have anything to...
Well, what did you guys think? I mean,
to beat around the bush with this?
To me, yeah. I mean, I think first of all, there's not much to look forward to your international break, so we might as well just unpack the Philly game.
It's a. I'm not like I want to say it's a bad time to lose because you got to kind of stew on this for a while, but at the same time, you just won 7 straight. So
yeah, I mean,
you were bound to lose one of them.
Didn't y'all get the feeling that they just ran out of gas? I
mean,
yeah.
I mean, it just felt like we were saying this on radio earlier. It's like, this isn't that big of a deal because it was not your first choice 11. You know, there was definitely a lot of rotation going on there. No Barco. You also had Pereira in there.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was definitely a different looking lineup, and I think it was also one of those things where once you locked in your CONCACAF Champions League spot by winning the Open Cup, now it's all about prioritizing. Like, at this point, is it time for heavy squad rotation? Try to keep yourself maybe in that second spot and have healthy legs going into the playoffs? Or do you want to keep, the foot on the gas, try and get that first place spot in the East back? I mean, there's just a lot of things to think about.
So here's the thing. Across all sports, you always hear this conversation play out. And what do the athletes say every time? Unless you've got an insurmountable lead. Like LAFC, you could totally see they're not going to give up first place. You could totally see them putting.
You play to win the game.
Putting the brakes. Otherwise, you're playing to win the game. You still got something to play for. You're still trying to move up the table. You're still trying to get in the first.
And
we talked about it a little bit on the radio show, and I sat there. I'm like, one, this is not that kind of team. You think Joseph is going to let off the gas?
No, I didn't get that idea at all. I mean, I think if you look at that was your best 11, more or less available. I mean, obviously you could maybe argue that Franco Escobar could Pogba, but Frank de Boer more or less put his best 11 out there. Plus, you're playing a Philadelphia team that's a huge competitor for the top spot in the East. Then I think you add on top of that the layer, the fact that the playoffs are single elimination now. And I mean, I think the team ran out of gas, but I didn't get the feeling there was a mentality that they took their foot off the gas because they had just won a trophy. And I think
I think Sam's referring to moving forward here toward the end, toward the last 6 matches of the season, right?
Yeah. It's just like,
so heading into the playoffs, do you take the foot off the gas and settle for second
place? I would say absolutely not.
Yeah,
I think that it's particularly when you look at how good this team is at home. I mean, I think that it's absolutely massive. And I think Philadelphia and New York, two teams that have a huge gap in a home and away form, will feel the same way. I mean, that was more or less a 6-pointer. And I thought Atlanta United, I mean, I just thought you run into fatigue issues in the last 30 minutes or so.
Look, I actually I rewatched the match and I sat there thinking,
good for you, Eric.
Because I couldn't really watch it.
Finally, one of you watched it.
No, but I sat there thinking, man, Philly could have been up 2-0 before Joseph Martinez even gets a look at the goal that he eventually scores. I never got the sense that Atlanta United dominated the match the way they have been over the course of these last 8 matches or 7 matches before that one. And I kind of got the sense watching the first 30, 45 minutes, I was like, this might not go Atlanta's way.
I still felt, though, I mean, if you go back.
You still saw they had moments, but I was like, it just seems like this is, not that their luck has run out, but like they're due for a loss.
My feeling in the last 5 minutes or so was, okay, let's hold out for a draw. And it's actually a pretty good result. And if you look at the match, I mean, Atlanta had played well in spells. I thought you came out, you played really well. You were the better team the first 15 minutes or so of the second half. And in the end, from Atlanta United's side, you'll go and look at this and you'll say, Joseph Martinez missed 2 chances that he finishes 4 out of 5, 9 out of 10 times. I don't know. But a vast majority of the times when you look at the wide open goal that he missed in the second half where it was 1-1, where he's basically, there's a mistake in the back. He's around the keeper. I know it wasn't the easiest angle that he had there, but he had his feet set. You got to finish that. And then he has the header from the set piece in the first half that flashes wide that we've seen him finish time and time again. So for Atlanta United, I mean, I think you could take positives because you did give a good effort with a solid 11, and you still created enough to win that match. And to me, if Joseph's going to get those 3 chances when we play Philadelphia next time, I think you beat him. And I think even this time, with all the problems you had with the fatigue, at time you had issues defensively, I'll get into the balance. I think was a little off tactically. There are some things that you could learn from this match in terms of what this team needs to work on going forward. But in the end, you still look at that. You say we played 8 matches in a month or whatever it was. We had to travel to the West Coast 2 or 3 times. We finish it with this huge match with Philly. And you still really had a good chance to win that game or at least get a point out of it. So, I mean, I think it's just a match where you left it all out there and you just completely ran out of gas in the last half hour.
I did want to ask Josh, though, because we were talking about this earlier, Eric. It's like, if you look at the extremes, like I like on the 2 ends of like the positives and negatives from this game, the obvious positive is that Joseph Martinez continues to be on an all-time tear. I mean, he's got
unbelievable
a goal in 13 straight games. Yeah. Although I did think it was funny, the article that Atlanta United shared where it's like he's inching closer to the record, and like the record is like Messi with like 21 straight or something. And it's like, all right, let's dial it back there. But the fact that, he's still playing as good a soccer as he's ever played for Atlanta United on current form right now, So that's good. You still got that. Like that is something. The biggest positive to take out of the game is that Joseph Martinez is still Joseph Martinez.
And he's still getting a lot of chances to score. It's funny we sit here and sing Joseph's praises, and we really should.
Absolutely.
But this was a match where he will probably be kicking himself not for having 2 or 3 afterwards. And if he does have 2 or 3, you might come out of there with 3 points.
Well, that's for sure. But going to the opposite and the negative extreme, Atlanta United has done this before, where the wheels come off and then it just completely falls apart. You know, they allow the first goal and then they go down 2-1. And then right after that, like within 5 minutes, they're down 3-1.
Yeah.
Probably less than that. So it just seems like this happens not a lot,
I think
but it's happened before.
But this is different. When it happened toward the end of the game, they were chasing the game. They were trying to get the draw at the very least. And you also have the fatigue aspect of it.
No, I get that. I'm just saying that this isn't the first time where we've seen Atlanta United kind of fall apart in a match that they could have at least gotten a point out of, and instead everything just.
But the thing is that the fatigue aspect didn't play a factor. Now we're talking about the players having played 8 games in a matter of
So I get what you're
game.
saying, that it's different this time around, but that's kind of my point, though. It's like, if that's the biggest thing to worry about from this loss, then you still feel really, really good about things. Because, again, it was a game where Atlanta going on the road, their road form at times has been kind of like a roller coaster. Beginning of the year, they were not good on the road. But they, over the month of August, got some pretty impressive road wins, including the one at Portland, which is one of the toughest places to play in all of MLS. So I think that there's not a whole lot of cause for concern after the Philly loss, but there's also a little bit of, what exactly is Atlanta United? Is this loss an outlier? Is this loss something where we can say, well, they were tired, they were all this stuff? Or is some of that excuse making and there maybe were some real problems? I didn't really see anything, though. That's the thing. There wasn't really any other than like we said, that stretch of about 5 minutes where they just kind of fell apart there.
Yeah.
That was really the only like super negative thing.
And you got the feeling it was fatigue more so than a collapse of sorts. And I would also say, man, Philadelphia are good. I mean, that was one of the big things I took from this match was, we hear people talk about how MLS is improving and all that. And obviously you're going to point to your LAFCs and your Atlanta.
Everyone's waiting for the Union to kind of drop off.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That is a really, really, really good team.
They're young. That's the thing too. You got like an Aronson there. They're good.
And they're young in the back. And then if you want to go back and listen, I had a random Philadelphia take in May where I said this team can be really good if they add a 9.
Go tell them the exact minute and the episode.
I love you can you can also look through my tweets as well. So just pat myself on the back for being.
I was gonna say you didn't hurt your shoulder there, patting yourself on the back.
I didn't. But look, Philadelphia. You look at them early on, and you're right, Eric. People were expecting them to fall off, and I think a big reason for that.
I think I kind of still am, but go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
I kind of do.
Well, I think a big reason for that is they were kind of struggling to find a number 9. I think the addition of Marco Fabian is huge. They've always had some ability from the wide positions. You have Bedoya and Medunjanin, who are a really, really good holding midfield pairing that they've always had. And then, like Sam just mentioned, you have a really good young back line. All you needed to top that off was a number 9. And, man, we've got Trebilco up there. I still don't know how to pronounce the guy's name, whatever. He's wreaking havoc, and that looks like a complete team. And the reason we're not super upset, aside from the fatigue aspect of this, and the reason that we're not coming here today and say, oh, my God, you fell apart in the last 10 minutes is because Philadelphia were just damn good. And eventually they broke the door down.
So that was the interesting thing that I took. I didn't see after this loss, which it obviously didn't look like a good loss. There were moments where Atlanta United didn't play well. It looked like Philadelphia dominated I would say the majority of the match, more than 50%. And you didn't have the reaction of Frank de Boer out or you didn't have this blame game that the fans typically want to play when it comes to Atlanta United losses. I thought that was actually it helped me understand that, okay, well, this fan base at least understands that you just played 7 matches straight. This was the 8th in whatever the last month and a half or whatever the number is.
Yeah, crazy run.
And a loss at some point in this was expected, and so there was that understanding that okay, well, we can live with this one, it comes at what I'm hoping that this loss does, because Joseph wasn't happy with the chances that he missed. That the team itself isn't going to make excuses for being tired or anything like that. That they understand how important this match was to go into this international break in the top spot in the East. So what I'm hoping is that this kind of plays itself out to be a lot like what Toronto did, or what the Toronto match last year, heading into the playoffs for Atlanta United, where they kind of propelled themselves after that loss last year into the playoffs and just went on a run.
And the thing about that Toronto loss was the team clearly learned something about themselves that day, where Tata Martino said, okay, we can't play wide open, clearly, and you come to playoffs and you see more of that 5-3-2 looking to counter. Now, we know this team's not going to have that same reaction, Frank de Boer. We're not playing defensively, but I think that there are definitely some things that you can go look back and look at the film and learn from. And one is a big one that we've been talking about is you are playing two wingbacks right now, and Justin Meram and Julian Gressel, who are attacking wingbacks. They're not playing a lot of defense, and that's okay. But that's going to create weaknesses on the wide areas. And if you look at where
you got to score,
and if you look at where the second and third goals came from, both times players are allowed space in the middle of the field, and the player makes a run from a wide position, and those guys aren't able to track him, particularly on the third goal. And that's just the way it is. When Atlanta United build up, the outside backs, the wing backs are going to bomb forward, and they're not going to think about what they're going to do defensively. And what that happens is, as we saw in the third goal, is what happens. Jeff Laurentowicz gets pulled all the way out wide, and you're in all kinds of trouble trying to defend. So the ways to fix that, what Atlanta United did last year was you had Greg Garza as the left wing back, Julian Gressel as the right wing back. So Gressel would just press down the field every single time. And Garza, when needed, would hang back and play as a left back, and then it turns into a back four. The other thing Atlanta United, but that's not going to happen this year because you're playing Justin Meram on the left. The other thing Atlanta United did last year they can do this year is Jeff Laurentowicz played as a center defensive mid in front of the back three. So if the wing backs got caught up high, he would drop in as a center back, and then you have two center backs, and the right center back and the left center back in the back three turn into your fullbacks, into your right back and left back. So Atlanta United are going to have to look at this film and figure out how they're going to strike that balance, because you finally got to go up with this shape against a good team on the road, fatigued, really up against it. We saw how it could work against New York, but we saw the other side of it. Of course, I'm talking about playing against better opponents. We saw how it could work against LAFC in New York, but we saw how a top opponent can expose you with Philadelphia getting into those wide areas. So Frank de Boer, you talk about learning from this match, Eric, the way that Atlanta United did with Toronto. I think that's the main place you need to learn is how do we strike a balance with this super attacking formation that plays a back three with wing backs that really are wingers and not outside defenders. And the big thing I look at from this match is because of injuries, Jeff Laurentowicz has to start at center back. He can't play in front of the back three, and you end up with Eric Remedi and Darrington Nagbe, who are both players who like to go forward into space. So I look at this, I think Frank de Boer needs to opt for Jeff Laurentowicz over Eric Remedi going forward in the midfield, provided you have a healthy back three, so he can be the guy to drop in and fill in as that extra defender, and you don't get caught in these tough situations. But either way, that's the main thing you have to learn from this match. How do we strike a balance where we don't end up in these situations where when we do get caught forward, we're not getting gashed in behind time and time again, as Philadelphia did in those last 10, 15 minutes.
And isn't this a little bit of what, we heard this a lot, and you can obviously go to the Twitter thread or Twitter threads that we're calling Atlanta United, lethargic and slow and things like that. And it's like,
what a surprise.
Yeah.
They're slow. But I decide, are y'all still doing that?
Well, no, but
are we still doing this?
This was coming from, MLSsoccer.com.net, blah, blah, whatever you want to call it.
I like that.
MLS soccer.
MLSsoccer.com.
No. Major League Soccer.com.
Yes.
That's what it is.
But that's the thing, talking about Atlanta, and this was the one that we saw, a representative of Atlanta United, even mixing it up with, I believe it was Warshaw. From MLS.soccer.net. This is one of those where, the whole, Atlanta United playing slow and lethargic thing. But that was a common, fan perception, if you will, earlier in the season of this Frank de Boer team. But it's like, okay, now that the team they're doing what you want, but it's like, at what cost?
And I think
you talk about that with that balance. It's like, okay, you can't be over attacking. It's like, yes, you want to play this beautiful style where you're going forward, you're doing a lot in the attack, but at the same time, you can't always do that because, you do have to find that balance or you'll get caught out like Atlanta United did twice against Philly.
And I think it's not you continue to attack. It's not saying you can't attack. It's just that you need one player in some way to stay back and be able to help those back three, because 3 players just isn't enough to cover the entire back line when you're getting countered. Because if that right center back gets pulled to the touch line, there's 30 yards of space in between him and the center back for an attacker to run into. So, to me, the one thing that I learned from this match, just to go off what I was saying earlier, and what Sam is saying, is Jeff Lorenowitz is your guy in the middle, not Eric Rometti going forward. Because just the way that Eric Rometti played, I thought he was very poor in this match. But aside from that, the way that he plays the ball hawk, chasing the ball around, trying to get up forward into attack, that leaves you completely exposed with those back 3. And obviously, Darlington Nagbe, with the form he's in, you can't bench him, and he's going to be the one to go forward. So the way that I think you fix that and find that balance while still being able to play attractive, attacking, aggressive football is you play a player like Jeff Lorenowitz, who's not going to bomb forward from midfield, and then you have the proper cover defensively.
See, I'm okay with I'm not okay with the loss, but considering everything that happened, I'm okay with how this match turned out. You give up 2 late goals.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been a draw.
You look at how exactly, and that would have been probably the most even outcome you could possibly think of. But you add the fatigue factor for Atlanta United, and you give up 2 late goals, and that it is what it is.
And
look,
also,
Atlanta United wasn't going to go the rest of the season without getting a loss, and so if one's got to come, sure, make it happen at a point where it's not going to hurt you. It's not going to leave you in a position where, oh man, now it's a completely uphill or unclimbable battle to get back into first in the East. And so with 6 matches left, and I'll go ahead and go over.
And look at Philadelphia's schedule. Though they're LAFC, they're to San Jose. I mean, they have a. I can't imagine there's a team in the entire league that has a difficult fixture list remaining than them.
So you look at the rest of the schedule. Atlanta United goes to Columbus to face the Columbus Crew. They come back home. On the 14th, they face Columbus in Columbus. Sorry. FC Cincinnati comes to Atlanta on the 18th. Then Atlanta flies to San Jose on the to play on the 21st. And they come home, play NYCFC on the 25th. Then they play Montreal Impact on the 29th. And then they face the New England Revolution in New England.
Montreal's at home.
Foxborough. Montreal's at home.
Okay, so it's
what did I say?
No. You just didn't mention whether it's home or away. I'm just interested. So yeah, so that's not the easiest run in, but
Columbus and Cincinnati, you should walk in there thinking that you've got a pretty good hold of the match.
Those are 3-point specials. You're disappointed if you don't come out of those games with 3 points.
Yeah, those are the 2 that you're going to look at over the course of this last stretch of the season and think, man, we really should have done better in these moments. Should they not come away with 3 points?
Eric doesn't agree with me on the NYCFC thing. I think NYCFC is a game you look at.
Oh, sure, no, for sure.
Points too.
Yeah.
I just don't think that, because Atlanta United in recent games has dominated that team,
especially at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Okay.
I just think they're big games. San Jose is a big one just because we got to fly all the way out there, and they're. I saw an MLS they're the most improved team from last year.
San Jose is.
I know, and I'm not saying they're not improved. I'm just saying when you had a year as bad as last year, anything would have been better than last year.
Losing to Chris Wondolowski would just be the worst.
Montreal Impact are sort of the same boat as the Columbus Crew and FC Cincinnati, and New England are kind of on the rise right now. So you look at you basically 3 out of 3 in terms of teams you should beat and teams that are kind of a toss-up. And you're hoping you do better than not on teams that are toss-up, and you take care of the teams that you should beat. And hopefully you're talking about I'm thinking 13 points. No, 14 points. 13 points, sorry. Out of the next 18 does it. Even if it doesn't, that's the goal. Because you got to leave some wiggle room for error, for stupid goals, for stupid mistakes that happen through the course of a stretch of games. You leave that room for error. 13 points to me should do it. Does that math even add up? Yeah, it does.
I mean, we don't know if it's going to add up until the season, and of course.
No, but I'm saying for the projection for the next six matches.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair, and I think the next 2 matches are you really need to get 6 points from the Cincinnati Columbus match, because if you also look at the teams around you. So first of all, yes, you're going to play NYCFC, but they're also playing Philadelphia on the final day of the season. Philadelphia, meanwhile, they're going to play, I think, LAFC in their next match or 2, so we expect them to drop points. The teams around you are probably going to drop points over those, or at least one of them, at least NYCFC or.
What we're saying is that something is going to happen.
Something is going to happen, yeah. But But if you're because
You don't know what.
you
but
can
something will
easily
happen.
just jump right back over Philly by winning your next two matches.
Eric, you flip flopped
thinking that
everything. Chief.
thinking
I
that they
didn't.
drop points.
Yeah. So Columbus is at home. Cincinnati's on the road.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
I
bad.
thought
San
Columbus was
Jose's
at
at
home.
home.
Scratch that.
NYCFC and Montreal Impact are on the road, and then New England Revolution to
Well,
close
that
out
makes
the
more sense
regular
because I was
season.
wondering why we would play New York at home again. I mean, it's still. I mean, when you look at the other two teams, Atlanta does have even though you're playing a lot of those matches on the road, Atlanta do have the easiest run in for sure between
I would agree.
them, NYCFC, and of course Philadelphia.
I mean,
So-
you have Montreal, New England, a New York team that, despite the fact you have to go to the most joke of a stadium in the entire league,
Well, that won't be easy.
that won't be easy playing on that smaller field. But yeah, Cincinnati away. I mean, that's almost. I'd much rather play Columbus Crew at home and Cincinnati away than vice versa.
But then you look at Philadelphia. So Philadelphia comes back 10 days after the national break. They host LAFC, then they go to New York Red Bulls, to San Jose, to Columbus. That's a layup, and then home to NYCFC.
Don't call it a layup, man.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you never. Yeah, we'll see what happens with us. Then New York, who have the match in
Don't
hand,
tempt the dread guy.
have the match in hand, home to New England Revolution, who are super, super dangerous side. I wouldn't want to see them in the playoffs. Then you're home to Toronto FC, home to San Jose. So that's 3 playoff teams in a row. You go to FC Dallas, who are playing a lot better and probably be fighting for the postseason on Sunday, September 22nd. Then you host Atlanta on the 25th, at New England on the 29th, and then that big match with Philly to finish the season on October 6th. So you look at those matches between those two teams, Columbus and Cincinnati on Atlanta's schedule, aside from the one trip to Columbus that Philadelphia have, that is a easily the easiest two games.
Coming up with new words here.
The easiest 2-game stretch here. So you get 6 points out of there, and you're probably right back in the driver's seat in the East.
See, here's what you guys failed to realize. I was tricking the Dread God.
You are him.
I was sending the Dread God to Columbus, sending it to Atlanta for Cincinnati. And now you guys have messed it up, and now the Dread God's going to know where these games are being played.
You are the Dread God.
So if anyone wants to blame anyone for anything, it's these two fools.
I think the most ridiculous thing.
Don't try to pass the buck on us, Chief. I don't know what you do.
The most ridiculous thing about Eric trying to pass the buck is that he's trying to say that he's trying to fool the Dread God, who is himself, which of course makes no sense at all.
Is it like the Holy Trinity there, like
It's
where
like-
you're Eric, but you're also the
Look,
Dread
it
God?
might be
and
me,
you're-
but if it's me, it's because I'm possessed by the Dread God himself.
Possessed by the Dread God. Whatever it is.
His name is Mitch.
Do we need to have an exorcism?
No, let's not.
We'll see. So, what? Just give me your prediction. Is Atlanta going to win the 1, 2, or 3? Where does Atlanta finish up?
I think
in
2.
the East. 2?
I think they finish up in second
I think
place.
1. I think Atlanta wins the East. What do you think, Sam?
This one's tough because, again, it goes to what I was talking about earlier. Like, what is Frank DeBoer's mindset in terms of squad rotation for the stretch run?
Let's assume, and I think with great confidence, Atlanta United will go everything they have to get the 1 seed in the East.
Why would you think they wouldn't? They would lay off the gas.
I'm not saying lay off the gas. Because the players that are playing are going to be going full tilt. But I just don't know if he's going to be, one of these coaches. Because a lot of the time, especially in European soccer, a lot of managers get in their own head.
Yeah.
I think Rafa Benitez is like the best example of this, of a guy who squad
Sam
rotated.
hates Rafa Benitez.
Well,
No,
I
it's
don't-
fine. It's fine.
I don't hate Rafa Benitez.
Every show with him.
I think Rafa Benitez is hilarious because, he basically let Alex Ferguson get into his head and squad rotated himself out of a job in Liverpool.
Right. He loves the squad rotate.
That's what I'm saying. So, there are managers like that.
But then here's the thing.
I feel like Frank DeBoer is that guy.
No,
I don't know.
No,
That's
but I
the
think
thing.
we do know. I think we already have our answer.
I don't think he's that guy.
Because you
But we
just
haven't had him as head coach of Atlanta United in a
That's
stretch
true,
run yet. So
but
we don't know.
you just went through a stretch of 8 matches or whatever it was.
And he
where
went
you
full
played,
tilt. He
yeah,
did.
and that
Yeah.
includes the Open Cup semifinal and final. That includes trips to the West Coast. That includes the huge match against Philadelphia. It includes going to Orlando to play your rivals. He did not rotate really a single time throughout that. So I think
No, you're right.
to me, I think you already have your answer. I think that you're going to – first of all, I think it would be not smart to go for that 1 seed anyway because of the single elimination wrinkle this year. And I have to be honest.
So you're saying they do need to go for
Yeah, I think they do need – and I think Frank DeBoer has already shown us that he's not the type to really rotate heavily.
To tinker too much.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I think it would be a mistake if he did otherwise.
He's found his best 11. Now that Barco's
more or less.
Now that Barco had sort of came back.
No, the best 11's easily
He knows.
identifiable.
We know what this team can look like at full strength. So that should, as long as we go into the playoffs at full strength, into this last 6 matches at full strength, Barco gets back, everyone's rested, LTP misses an extra game, everyone should be good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone should be firing on all cylinders come Columbus, and we should be able to. This team should be able to kind of control its own destiny to an extent. Heading into the playoffs, and once you're in the playoffs, it's kind of a crapshoot. But I still think that the hottest team is going to win. I think who the hottest teams going into the playoffs, regardless of where they sit, is going to win MLS Cup. The two hottest teams are going to get to the finals.
We'll see. The East is fascinating. I just think this is a year. I mean, I think that
it's easy to say, but if you think about it in a single elimination tournament, it's obviously a lot different. Anything can happen, but there's just something that happens to hot teams,
sure,
where they can just go on runs.
But I still think
Atlanta
that
United was this hot team for the last 7 matches.
I would argue that
though
playing single elimination in some ways takes that out of the equation a little bit. Because if you're hot, you could just play great in the first leg at home and then go park the bus. If you play one match 90 minutes, you got to go win it. So,
but I think the reason I'm confident in what Atlanta United can do in the playoffs is because of what they did in the Open Cup and what they
for Atlanta United, yes,
for the Campeones Cup. I think that those prove that in those moments they're not going to let it get too big. They're going to treat those moments like finals because essentially they are, and they're going to be able to go in there with the right mindset. That's not the case with Philly, who's I'm trying to think when the last time they went to the playoffs was.
Well, they went to the playoffs for the first time. Recently, I mean,
last year,
yeah. So I mean, they're not. Yeah, I mean, they're new kids on the block for sure. I mean, nobody would have predicted that they would be in this even a year ago, be in this type of position with this type of squad. So I mean, yeah. So and I think you saw that already, Eric, with Atlanta United. The ability, obviously, the U.S. Open Cup run, obviously the Campeones Cup run. That shows you that type of mentality, ability. I know it sounds cliche, but the ability to just do what you need to do to survive and advance and go through. And I think you also saw that mentality in some of the league matches where you weren't at your best, the Orlando match, for instance, but you still find a way to get a result. And that's the way, that's really the way that you go through a single elimination tournament like that, is you're going to have to win a match or two or you're not at your best. Can Philadelphia win a match when they're not at their best? And just compare the Philadelphia match.
Philadelphia is the type of team that's going to do so well, and then they're going to get to the playoffs and crash.
Well, it reminds me.
That's how I feel about LAFC, though.
It's a little
LAFC just absolutely crushes, but dominates.
I understand that, but they don't have the pedigree. This is why I think, and I said this earlier on radio, I'll say it again here. This is why I think if Atlanta United makes MLS Cup final, they're going to be hosting it, because LAFC, I just don't see. They're this team that has never been in this position before and has to go through this one-off playoff thing. I just don't see it. I see somebody pipping them. If they run into the LA Galaxy, for example, what if Zlatan has another all-time Zlatan game? I mean, he's been there, just like Joseph Martinez is Orlando's father. I mean, let's be honest, Zlatan Ibrahimovic has been LAFC.
We'll see with LAFC, but I think going back to Philadelphia, I think if teams like that, and we'll see if LAFC ends up like this too, Sam. We saw this with Atlanta United in 2017. When you're high, you're high. When you're low, you're low. And you don't know how to react to those types of situations. Philadelphia, just compare the way they played and I know it was a draw, but compare the way they played when they came to Mercedes-Benz, when they weren't at their best. They looked super lethargic. Atlanta United were pretty poor too, but Philadelphia doesn't offer a ton. And then at home against Atlanta United team that's playing far better than they were when they matched up earlier in the season, Philadelphia gets a bit of confidence. They start firing on all cylinders. So you have, with teams like that, you tend to have this huge chasm between their good and their bad. And the reason is just because since they're kind of the new kids on the block, they haven't figured out how to win these matches together when maybe they're not at their best. Now, can you figure that out come postseason time? Absolutely. We saw Atlanta United do it in 2018, but sometimes you don't. And that's why teams like Philadelphia, despite the fact they do have talent and they've continued to put these good performances together, and Eric, you mentioned this earlier, you're still kind of waiting for the other shoe to fall. And to me, it's not because the ability isn't there. It's because how are they going to respond in a single elimination situation when things get difficult? We already know Atlanta United can fight through that type of thing. So I think that's one of the reasons, we talked, Sam, you mentioned earlier, fans not going completely woe is me and
Right.
and jumping off a cliff about this match, because I think we've seen this year and obviously last year that Atlanta United has the ability to win when they're not playing well or when they're up against it. So you still feel good about things going forward, even though you lose that match. And they've already shown to you that they can do it with, like I said, the Open Cup run and Campeones Cup.
We would really not be doing ourselves justice if we didn't talk about Joseph Martinez's goal. I think one of the best team goals Atlanta United has ever put together.
That's the best team goal.
Yeah,
to me, that was
trying to think of a different one.
They
had the best Joseph goal.
The Tito one against Philadelphia on the same. Do you remember that one building last year where there was a bunch of tiki-taka build-up and then Miggy squared across? I thought this one was better.
Oh, for sure. It was.
Some
faster.
people were saying they liked that one more.
I can't get over how pretty this one looked.
It's beautiful.
I mean, you got Joseph starting with the ball. He gets it over to Pitty. Pitty back to Joseph. Joseph to Nagby. Does the spin move while Nagby has the ball. And then, Nagby back to Joseph. And Joseph.
And then he does the keeper dirty, too. I mean, it's beautiful.
Is it his best goal in Atlanta United shirt?
It's the best team goal. If we want to, look, you can go back to one of my all-time favorites, just because of the angle he had to do it at, was I think it's the third goal against Houston in the second match at Bobby Dodd.
You're thinking about Chicago.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I would say
rounded it. I know we've done this like three times where he's brought that goal up and he says it's Houston.
But no, that one's one of my favorite. Obviously, him chipping Bendick and the stare back and everything to break the record last year. That was fantastic. I mean,
one of my favorites is the one against Toronto last year, the glancing header off the cross from Tito, I believe.
Yeah, beautiful.
Where, I mean, he 5-holes the keeper, and it just feels like in that scenario, like when you're doing a diving header like that, you don't usually think that you're going to have total control over the shot. You're just kind of diving at it and lunging at it and trying to get ahead to it. I mean, he hit it with the side of his head, glanced it so perfectly that, I mean, it's one of his best finishes.
He's just so deadly in the box. And the funny thing is, like, even though he scored, I think, all but 2 or 3 of his goals for Atlanta United in the box, he still scored a ton of pretty goals because his composure is so good where, like, instead of maybe trying to poke that one home against Philadelphia over the weekend, he said, okay, I'm going to compose myself, make Blake look silly, go around the keeper. Like he still finds a way to have some really nice goals, even the fact most of them come from inside the box. It's not like he's just a poaching striker that's putting stuff in from inside the six.
He's not Filippo Inzaghi.
No. I mean,
it's like time slows down for him in those moments where he can. I mean, I don't understand how he's always, there's something to be said about it. So when I say a player in the right position all the time, or a player that seems to be in perfect positions all the time, there's a difference between like Giassi Sardes and a Joseph Martinez.
Yeah.
So Giassi Sardes,
oh God,
it's a different kind of luck. and he's generally not doing it on purpose.
It's like the ball is caroming off Joseph's face.
With Giassi Sardes, it feels like it's only luck, whereas with Joseph it feels like he knows.
He's purposely putting himself in positions to where he doesn't need that luck. He's creating that moment for himself.
And you can see goalkeepers just have no idea what to do with him when he gets 1v1. And I know he's missed a couple penalties recently, but it's similar with that, where the way that he has this thing where he's able to set his feet at the very last second, so he doesn't have to decide where he's placing the ball until the end. Yeah. So you'll see. You see keepers going down too early because of that, because he doesn't commit to a shot until the very last moment, and keepers guess one way or the other. Then they're on their butt, and it's an easy tap in.
Is that sports science show still a thing?
I don't think so.
I wanted the sports science episode on Joseph Martinez and how he does the things.
I got something.
I don't know what specifically.
Which
I just want to know how he does the things that he does.
That's good science.
Give me the physics between like his speed, his body type, like how he can jump in the air that much. Like give me like the biology and the science behind how he's able to do the things.
And the angles that he's
everything.
Yeah, I mean he's
able to round every single keeper.
I have to be real though. I'm critical of Joseph from this match. I mean, that was a great game, and obviously I'm not hating on the guy. I mean, he scored 13 straight matches. He's an incredible goal scorer.
This is your Tito move.
Attention everyone.
There are 2 opportunities in that match that you expect him to finish, and if he finishes them, you probably win that match, or you at least get a point. So, yeah, the Joseph goal was great.
Especially early on.
It was a great team goal. And strikers, this happens with strikers, right? It's all good, right? As long as you're getting chances, in the end, you will finish them. But if you take this match in isolation and you have to point to a few moments moments that you would expect to have gone differently that would have changed the results. Certainly the 2 misses for Joseph Martinez are part of that.
Well, funny too on Joseph, you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about how he rarely scores from outside the box, but
yeah,
that even one of the better goals he had last season was kind of a one-on-one, but it was so far away that he kind of used the defender.
Yeah, the Columbus goal.
He used the defender to screen his attempt kind of with the finesse shot at the near post to where the keeper couldn't react in time to get to it because Joseph used the defender to kind of screen the keeper. And it's just like,
and that's the type of stuff he does.
His instincts, man. Like, he knows exactly the type of shot he needs to put. Every time he's getting ready to finish, he knows, all right, I need to put power on this, or I need to finesse this. All right, the goal he scored that we couldn't figure out the name of it for.
There's one from outside the box. That's the thing with him is like he's a perfect mix of being super clinical while also being really creative. So it's tough to predict where he's going to put the ball. Yeah. Like, he's super clinical. It's going to end up in the corner usually, but he might bend it around a defender, or he might hesitate for a second and put the keeper on his butt and go around him.
It into the corner.
Yeah, or he might just, there's just no way to predict it. But again,
it's like he does the right thing every time.
Yeah, but I just, like I said, if we're gonna gush over Joseph Martinez, this is not the match to do it.
Even though he scored like maybe the best goal of his
that's
career.
What's crazy, right? Is he scored an amazing goal. Before we move on, because since we're criticizing right now, and we've been mostly positive, as we should have been from this match, Eric Remedi is really struggling. Yeah. Really struggling.
I've noticed that over the last
Aside from the fact that I think tactically, as I talked about earlier, I think it makes more sense to play Lorenowitz over him just because he adds that balance. Yeah, Remedi, if you look at that second goal, terrible giveaway from him in the middle of the field that enables you to pick that pass out in the first place. And we talk about the wing backs getting caught forward and getting caught out when you counter. That doesn't matter if you're not giving the ball away cheaply, right? Because then you can get back organically. You're not losing the ball in a bad position and getting countered. So Eric Remedi, time and time again, I think has been guilty of losing that ball. And he just doesn't seem to me to have the positional solidity, the consistency on the ball to play that number 6 position the way that Frank de Boer wants. I just think he's been really bad over the last month, and it's really hurt the team from a tactical standpoint, from a balance standpoint. And then when you consider you have a guy in Jeff Lorenowitz that can play that same position but offers you a little more a discipline, I think it's pretty clear what direction you're going forward, and Eric Remedi is going to be coming off the bench.
Is Jeff the only player that can play that position?
Chris McCann.
The currently on the roster.
You see how mad Eric got? But no, you're right. He really is. God, you get out of here.
Mine makes more sense.
I'm pretty sure that McCann has played a first-team game before Goslin has more recently. So Goslin even played first team. Anyways, but it's interesting, right, Sam? I think that's your only out-and-out 6 on the roster, and that's kind of a diminishing player in the modern game anyway. Everyone's a little more box-to-box. But if you're as attacking as Atlanta United are playing, you have to have that one midfielder that stays back at virtually all times, and that's Jeff Lorenowitz. It's not Eric Remedi or Darlington Nagbe or Kevin Kratz when he gets healthy. You have one player that can play in that spot.
Oh, man, where was I going to go next? Did you not think I forget which goal it was, but did you not think
you're talking about the one that was offside?
Shabelko was offside.
Because the striker. Well, Aronson wasn't offside.
Well, Aronson no, but Shabelko was. I feel like he was
coming back from an offside position.
Well, he was definitely offside, but I feel like Guzan was at least. I don't know if he was purposely trying. Look, he came out. He started to come out and then he retreated, which is like mistake number 1. But I feel like he reacted to Shabelko. Even going to the ball.
I don't know. I think it's a stretch. Okay. I think
it ultimately doesn't really matter. But I just thought, man,
it's a stretch.
How is that not a big deal?
That's one that if it had been flagged offside, I would have said it's a bad call, but probably they wouldn't be able to reverse it. I think it's one that you stick with the call on the field. And let's be real, we haven't mentioned this yet. Brad Guzan should have saved that.
Yeah, Guzan is starting to worry me a little bit.
That's the thing. Like we go back that far. I feel like the fan base goes back and forth on him.
Because he's a keeper, right? Right. It's the life of a goalkeeper.
It's not his fault that the 2 guys are basically running free behind the entire back line.
No, but there are a lot of efforts. I
don't disagree. But the keeper is the last hope. He's not supposed to be the guy.
You can tell Eric used to be a goalkeeper.
He's not supposed. Yeah, exactly. He's not supposed to be the guy that's supposed to be your absolute hero
Agree, but you got. I mean,
sure,
that
you
was
want
really
to make good
poor.
attempts. You want to make good saves.
And that hasn't really been mentioned. I mean, he got like megged at the knee. I mean, it was like really a poor attempt from Guzan. I would say that maybe he's anticipating, and at this point, Chabilco's on side. Maybe he's anticipating the square across the box,
honestly,
and that's why he's wrong-footed.
Unless
there.
you've seen two guys come at you like that, you don't know what you're
It's almost as bad as
that's a goalkeeper thing to
It's almost
say.
as bad as,
Dude, I can't even deal with keepers.
It was almost as bad as David De Gea getting beat in the near
Goalkeepers.
post by Wilfried Zaha recently.
Well, and we have our
So
You haven't talked about
our
Arsenal.
Man United referee.
You got to talk about Arsenal.
I
He
got
asked me. He asked me.
I've got the tweet of the night. It comes from @Cadesco.
Okay.
That's
What's
our
up,
man,
Kevin?
God
Hashtag
of Bread.
God of
Kevin, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so-
yeah.
He's on Twitter. He's, at least to me, he's famous for doing these uncanny breakdowns of things I tweet.
He also lets you know that Mourinho is available.
Yes. So 106.3 FM is the station that we're on. Also 103.7 FM on the radio side.
Sports
the FM
X
dial.
every Wednesday.
You subtract those two numbers, 2.6. 2/6 equals 1/3. Our last score was 1-3 against Philly. Philly has a famous bell. Bell have lips. Lips are part of mouths. Mouths of the South was against us. They should be called mouths of the North, or mouths of the brotherly love.
Oh wow!
So,
Mouths of the brotherly
He's not
love.
just implicating me now. He's implicating both of us.
Wow, so we've
That
got pulled
was-
into this, and it's
that was
a
a
gif
deep
of
dive.
the Charlie Day, right,
yeah.
doing the
It was uncanny.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia
Yeah, with
thing,
like
where he's
the pins.
plotting
and
the
everything.
crazy. Yeah,
He
so
has some,
yeah.
he has some good ones. I got to give him props because some of these I'm like,
I have
that's a
to
stretch,
say,
but my goodness,
our
those are
listeners
awesome.
are
How dare you question our loyalty to the South?
our listeners are wonderfully creative.
Well,
When we go
he's-
after Eric, I have to say.
He's 100% questioning my loyalty, but now he's implicating you too.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Well, Eric is a representation of the podcast. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's Sam and I's individual fault. It's just that you are polluting the product.
One third of the podcast.
Yeah, but 1/3. I mean, one bad apple can pollute the whole bunch, right? So thanks. I don't think he's blaming us. I just think he's saying you're ruining the whole podcast.
a bad apple
I mean, no big
spoils the
deal.
bunch.
No big deal. It's just that you're ruining the podcast. So
Also, I
no
need, you
biggie.
to, I need you to talk amongst yourself while I find the mean tweet. The
I
one
need
mean
you to
tweet that was
talk
sent to
amongst
us.
yourselves.
I like
We-
this in the comments, by the way.
Oh, you know what?
We've started a debate about Guzan here in the YouTube comments.
I love goalkeeper debates.
I
but-
do like
go Miles
one
Robinson.
chicken in here saying, I love Goose, but sometimes his soul gets taken, which is absolutely correct.
And I think, I mean, with goalkeepers, I mean, I don't know anything about goalkeeping. You just got to stop the ball from going in the net. And you accept,
Goalkeepers are a whole new
and
breed.
you accept. My kids all that I coach. I want to play goalie. I said, really, you don't want to play soccer? You want to stand in the goal and have
Wow.
the ball shot at you while you wear a funky bright jersey? And if you buy goalkeeper jerseys, it's not a jersey; it's a shirt that's meant to be a different color from the players on the field. Okay, stop buying goalkeeper jerseys. It looks
Josh
stupid.
is just butthurt because
Okay.
he's never successfully pulled off a scorpion kick.
Get him, Jessica. Get him.
I mean, seriously, goalkeeper jerseys, it's not a specific color. They're all bright green or bright blue. It's a shirt meant to contrast the colors of the actual jerseys that the field players are wearing. Stop getting goalkeeper jerseys. Unless you're a goalkeeper, then I can live with
I
it.
want
But it
goalkeeper
doesn't look
jerseys
cool.
to go back to what they were in the 90s.
Now, that's true. If you want to get an old school 90s, like Shaka Hislop
Yes.
keeper jersey, something like that,
Yes.
more power to you. But if you're just walking around with a neon blue thing, like, give me a
No,
break.
you need to go back to like the
Give me a
crazy ones
break.
from the 90s.
Look, as a youth, I like the ones with the padding over the elbows.
Right, you're
Those
walking
are always nice.
you're walking around with padding on your elbow at the game. Like, what were you gonna
You know what I
die?
used to wear? So this is my setup as a goalkeeper. I used to wear the what is it called? The turtleneck Under Armour.
Yeah.
Oh,
I used to
yeah.
have. I used to have. It wasn't
Like a snood.
Yeah, it
Remember
wasn't
the snood?
necessarily.
Oh, the snood!
It
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily tie dye, but it was like one of those multicolored goalkeeper shirts. Did have the elbow padding things. I had the biggest gloves you could possibly think of, and then I always wore the pants. And the pants on the side had the little padding, for
Right.
when you dove a little too hard.
Right, when you dove, right, exactly.
Always needed that padding.
Okay. Oh, we have breaking news in the chat. Kevin is listening.
Yes.
Okay, we were just discussing this. He said, I agree with Josh about my take. # blame Eric. So again,
Good.
this is Eric, you are reflecting poorly on the entire show. Sam and I are doing our best.
We're trying.
We come here, we do 45 seconds to 2 minutes of research. We're super prepared. We come in, and then everyone hate now. It's not blame Eric anymore. Now people are calling us Mouths of the North, and now we know it's because of you. It's not because of us.
By
okay?
the way,
So he's trying to lump us into it, but we're guilty by association. We're not just guilty.
So should I go to SoccerCon and not represent us as part of the podcast? I'm Eric, not part of Mouths of the
Yes.
No, I mean it is what it is. At this
I'm
point.
Eric of the North.
Yeah.
Seceded, and I'm Eric.
I'm Eric of the North. I will say if you want to deep dive and find yourself in a Google hole, just Google like a vintage goalkeeper shirt.
All right.
Yeah, if you want a proper keeper shirt, get one.
There
from
are
the
plenty
90s.
of sweet.
Yeah.
So international break coming up. Miles Robinson, obviously a big talking point for the U.S. men's national team. U.S. men's national team facing Mexico and Uruguay. Big matches considering the opponents, and a good opportunity for some of these young guys to really get their name out there, really perform. Hopefully we get to see – I really would like to see a full match. I would really like to see him start both games. I don't think it's going to happen, but I would love to see him start both games, get substantial minutes in another. Well, I would like to start one game, get substantial minutes in another, and see what he can give you. Give him a real run out. Let him prove to you that he doesn't belong in the U.S. men's national team, because I think he's going to prove most people wrong.
Yeah.
Or those that don't believe him. I think all Atlanta United fans think he'd be fantastic. But give him an opportunity to fail. Give him every opportunity to fail, because he's the best thing. I think the best young defender, best young center back in MLS right now, and he could be the future of U.S. men's national team at that position
That's
as long as
He's
wants.
better than
inaccurate.
Miazga. He's better than any of these guys playing.
I mean, certainly he has the ability to be better than all of them because of his physical attributes.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
What I really want to see is him and John Brooks next to each other.
perhaps. I mean, and he's a guy, we talked about this last week, Eric, because of his pace, you could pair him with so many center backs that might be a little slower.
Yeah.
And certainly John Brooks is an example.
Kyle,
And certainly a lot of American center backs.
You want John Brooks in there for his physicality, but
and his aerial presence.
Sure, and Miles Robinson being that backup speedy guy that you need that you would like at center back, it can help bail John Brooks. And look, it's only going to make him, if he can do the same things he's doing with Atlanta United for the U.S. men's national team and bailing out opponents and making himself, not that it's good for the U.S. men's national team,
But it's gonna happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Not that it's good that he'd be constantly bailing his teammates out, but you do want that to happen. You do want to see those moments where, he is. And look, I didn't know this until about 3 or 4 weeks ago, but Almiron was the only guy that Miles Robinson Miles Robinson was the only guy that Almiron couldn't beat in practice.
Yeah, I believe, because if he did beat him, he'd run him down.
Absolutely. And so you want to see how that pans out over the course of the international.
I can't
stage.
wait to see him.
You want to
play.
see him get enough opportunity, and
against two very good opponents.
My fear is that we're not going to see him at all. And I think
that would be brutal.
I think that would be the most horrendous mistake, considering what the talent you have in the pool. The talent you have in the pool, what you're witnessing week in and week out from this kid, it would be a waste of I feel like that's half the reason people are watching. At least that's the reason Atlanta United fans are watching. I think most U.S. men's national team fans are seeing Miles Robinson and thinking, yes, please.
Right. If you actually want to do that to yourself, where you're following the U.S. men's national team this closely, which I wouldn't recommend, but if you
that's
are,
what I was doing before Atlanta United.
No, hey, we've all been.
I know there are people out there.
I speak from experience.
And I feel really bad for them.
But if you're if you're a Rob Ussery type of U.S. men's national team junkie, of course, one of our editors at Dirty South Soccer, then Miles Robinson is one of the players you are most excited about. Yeah. I think aside from the young guys that played with the U19s and U20s, I think we are going to see him, Eric, because we talked about this last week.
I do too. That's my fear.
That's a sad.
Really, you're going to say it and then just go back on it 30 seconds?
No. I do think we'll see him.
Oh, okay.
I just also know U.S. men's national team, the coaching staff have had really dumb moments.
Yeah, and he's already had to. I mean, some argued he should have been there early.
Yeah,
he should have been there over the summer. I think since you're carrying 4 center backs, Matt Miazga, Aaron Long, obviously Brooks we mentioned, and Robinson, I think you're just going to see a different center back pairing for each match.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
And I'm interested. I wonder if Miles Robinson, who's developed so well, basically because he's been training with Atlanta United, but I wonder if him training against these quick technical players, the types of players you're going to see from Uruguay or Mexico that you maybe don't see week in and week out at MLS. But if you train with Atlanta United, you do see those players that you're training against them. I wonder if that'll help him against these types, because these are the types of players that U.S. men's national team have struggled to defend against. Super creative, pull your center backs out wide, a lot of movement, tiki-taka type stuff. Miles Robinson has been defending that in training for 2.5 years now. So I wonder if that helps him specifically going against these types of sides.
Just don't get hurt, man.
Yeah, I don't want to see him get hurt, and I don't want to see Brad Gazan touch the field at all.
I don't even know why Brad's in the squad other than having to mentor.
Yeah, he's there for better presence. There's no other reason. He's the oldest guy there he's the only veteran goalkeeper and only I think only veteran guy.
He's like one
right?
of the only veteran players in the whole.
That's what I'm saying. I was trying to think of everyone else that was in the pool, but yeah, hopefully we're talking about good things when it comes to Miles Robinson. Hopefully we're not talking about injury. Hopefully we're talking about absolute safety and come back home injury free.
I mean, all I'll say is
I'm sorry, just to clarify, it's not Miazga that win. It's I think Walker Zimmerman that win instead.
Yes,
it's the fourth
that's
center
what it
back.
was.
Yeah,
how
yeah.
much of a disaster has Miazga been?
Yeah, I was thinking.
I mean, since the transfer to Chelsea. I mean,
Thank you, Jenna, for saving me in the chat. Then I was like, wait a second, why would he be getting called in?
But like, I'll say this too: like, if you're a U.S. men's national team fan right now, like you guys were alluding to earlier, with the Robs of the world, and it's like,
God, poor guy.
Just not in the face, Mexico, Uruguay. That's all I can
Just not
say.
in the face.
Because I mean, those teams are miles
So
ahead.
I have
No pun intended.
I have a quiz question for you guys
Uh-oh.
before we move on to this last story. Do you know who the greatest striker that ever lived is, Sam?
I mean, isn't that a subjective question, or is this actually like
No, he has a specific name.
Who is the greatest striker that ever lived, according mostly to himself?
Zlatan Ibrahimovic?
Okay, someone else. You know this. You do.
Maradona?
I know. I'm putting you in it. He's a striker who referred to himself as the greatest striker that ever lived.
Okay.
He used to play for Arsenal. He's Danish.
Oh, Nicholas
Bentner,
Nicholas
the greatest
Bentner.
striker that ever lived.
Was he linked with Atlanta, or that wasn't linked?
Well,
I mean,
I've got some breaking news for you. Actually, Eric does. I wrote it down on a piece of paper at the start of the show. Atlanta United is linked with the self-proclaimed greatest striker that ever lived, Nicholas Bentner.
No. Please no.
It's true. It's up on DirtySouthSoccer.com, reported by Univision.
That tweet was from 2018.
I was waiting for someone to tell him.
Really?
You moron!
Why is it reported on our site?
Oh!
Why is it on our
Look who
website?
even wrote it. Look who even wrote it.
Why is it on our website?
Look who wrote it.
Oh my God! So did someone play a trick in our Slack chat?
Look who wrote it.
I know. I see. Wait. So why did? Oh my God!
That's what I was talking about with the link. I didn't think you were actually going there.
Why did?
Wow! This is worse than
Reports Atlanta United have contacted Nicholas Bentner.
Why did Jackson?
The Danish
post in our
striker has
Slack
been
chat?
linked to MLS expansion side. This is dated June 6th,
Right. So expansion. Yeah.
2016.
Oh, 16? Oh my gosh!
I have a
2:25 p.m.
major bone to pick with one of our
Eastern Standard Time.
one of my fellow Dirty
This
South
is
Soccer
like the
legends.
time when Josh forgot that the Open Cup game wasn't for another week.
Well,
You have been bamboozled, sir.
I was tired.
You have been
Wait. So
bamboozled.
is this a general trick? From
It's not
It's
real.
not a trick.
why?
Okay, all right. We're
Why?
gonna deep dive into this right now because I know I know the whole story, and I don't know how you didn't catch on to this.
Josh is like,
So if you look at Harris Kruskik's tweet thing on the Slack,
Oh, I see.
Bentner looking sharp as ever. His first.
Well, you could have
FCK
told me
training
that
session.
when I told you that like an hour ago. I wrote it down.
And he said, "Oh, what could have been."
Eric was setting you up for the
I'm
fall,
so
Chief.
pissed right now, Eric. You could have easily told me that I. Anyways,
But this is more fun.
It is more
Yeah,
fun.
you're right. This
Not
is
gonna
more
lie.
I saw that. I was like, I'm gonna let him roll with it.
Well done,
I'm
Eric.
not-
Well done,
I'm not gonna say
sir.
a word.
Well done.
And now it's time for me.
It's brilliant. All I'm saying is I did see this posted 3 hours ago in our Slack chat, but as Eric said,
You're not wrong about that. You
It
did
was-
see it posted.
So while I am stupid, I did actually see the link. It's just that I'm stupid and
Look, you don't look.
I give you credit, Eric. This is like the smartest thing you've ever
My
done.
man-
You
It's
don't.
stupid
You
for
don't. You
real.
don't look at the bylines or the date it was published. I mix up home and away games. There we go. It even.
This
gets out
is
now.
I got Eric. This is the best thing you've ever done.
Man, I feel like
I am legitimately like super embarrassed. Right now.
I feel like I need to do
Do
something.
you want me to cut that part out?
No.
I feel like
No,
I
I
need to
don't.
do something stupid in
I
the
don't.
last few minutes of the
I
podcast to
don't.
like balance.
I
it.
feel like anything I say from now on will be like, well, if we just get Nicholas Bentner in. Oh boy.
So mean tweets.
Thank God.
We asked last week for mean tweets, and I got one. My mean tweet. This is from at Bad Aska. It's Bad Aska.
Okay.
Just how you would spell it. I guess. I don't know.
Badaska.
Bad Aska. My mean tweet. Glad to hear Eric bring up John getting perpetually berated by Jason Longshore. It's like a Ren and Stimpy dynamic. Enjoy the mean looks Jason is going to give you. Now's the South podcast. Oh yeah, Josh B914 is wonderful.
Oh, that's nice.
Hashtag-
I hope they weren't listening tonight.
Blameless Eric.
Oh.
Well, I don't know.
Shout out to our friends at SDH.
We accept all mean tweets of any kind.
I just
in any
love.
form. No profanity, please.
Jason Longshore is one of the most genuine and nicest people I've met involved with this whole Atlanta United.
Of course.
Get up, so,
But he does.
He does
get
crap on
mad
John
at
a
John
little bit.
sometimes.
I know. I'm not disagreeing with you.
He's a little bullyish.
I'm not disagreeing.
I love it. I love the dynamic. I just think
And
it's.
then it's like a couple awkward seconds from John.
I want to have a running segment where.
Me too. I want them to play along. I want them to fire back. I want them to
They
make
will
fun of us
never,
for
ever
something.
do
They
that.
won't do it.
They're way above us.
Yeah, they are.
Home Before Dark does it.
Yeah, if they can do it, we can do it.
Speaking of Home Before Dark, should we tease?
We don't have anything
official?
official yet, but we're trying to do something for the radio show next week where Home Before
Crossover
Dark
with-
comes on the radio show. So we'll see. We're going to try to make that
And they're a
happen.
great podcast.
Uh,
Were there more mean tweets for you, or
That was it. If you want to send mean tweets, I'm happy to read them at
Yeah.
the end of every show. Mean tweets at Eric G. Quintana. Where can they send the mean tweets to you guys?
you can send your nice tweets to me at JoshB914 and send your mean tweets to me at Eric G. Quintana.
You can send tweets to me to at Washed Up Radio Host. Kidding. You can send them to at Sam J. Franco. That's all one word. You can also send tweets to all of us at MOTS Podcast.
Follow the Instagram, follow the Facebook, follow obviously Dirty South Soccer for all the latest news regarding Arsenal strikers coming to or not coming to Atlanta. And
I'm so mad. I'm so mad at you.
make sure you subscribe to the YouTube
The
channel.
Great Dane.
MOTS Podcast is what you search for on YouTube. Subscribe. You'll get the notifications. All that good stuff.
Josh, your face is so red right now.
I'm super embarrassed.
That was a bad one.
Like, I consider myself a pretty dumb person overall, but I think about soccer like I know I have some knowledge, and
You
I don't see why anyone should believe anything
astute tactical analysis.
I mean,
And then you drop something like
between the
Unbelievable.
Egg on your
forgetting,
face.
between the thinking the Open Cup final was a week earlier than it was, and then this, man, you've had a rough.
This
go.
one is way worse than that. I did. That's true. I did realize I was wrong quickly on that, but I think this is way worse. This is
not great.
way worse.
I'm very happy with Eric for
Also,
letting it roll.
if you heard me mention look who wrote it to Josh, it's Jason Longshore, who hasn't been with Dirty South Soccer in at least 3 years.
Look, I'm a blogger. I don't pay attention to sources. I'm not an actual journalist. I'm a hack blogger podcaster. So.
You can say that again.
All right, that'll do it for us. Until next time, see you later, Atlanta.
Peace. I'm a hack.
That could be a who's linked with Atlanta United. That could be my running thing.
I'm a hack.
Okay, bye. Thanks, y'all. Good night.
Adios.